And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to downtown Houma for the 2011 Krewe of Houmas Parade. I am Lonnie Thibodeau. Who are you?
My name is Regina Thibodeau. I happen to be married to Lonnie, and we just want to say thank you to Martin to ask us to help call the parade today for all you viewers.
And again, this is a day, and of course, we're doing this what's known as live on tape. We're announcing it live, and you could hear the police and the sirens behind us, but of course, you at home are watching this at some point at a later date after Mardi Gras is over. Perhaps Lynn has already started, but if you think back to Mardi Gras Day, if it's some days later that you're watching this, you might remember what the weather was like on Mardi Gras Day, at least the weather we woke up to this morning,
right,
which wasn't very pretty.
It was quite windy, very rainy. I looked out the front door and I was like, oh my goodness, it's been raining. But the good Lord has kind of parted the clouds, and the rain has dissipated. Hopefully it can hold off till later this afternoon. We should have a good roll for the next couple hours. So it looks like everybody out here is having a good time. The weather doesn't seem to be bothering anybody. So
well, I got to tell you, this is just to kind of give you the quick background or setup that, as Regina said just a couple of moments ago, we were honored when Martin asked several weeks ago if Regina and I would announce the parade. You can look at, you're seeing, by the way, some of the maids right now, and we'll be giving you their names and all that information in a few moments. Once Martin, of course, the king, Martin Folse, and I guess we haven't officially said that yet. For those who are watching this and are not aware,
the king for this year is none other than Martin Paul Folse.
Martin Paul Folse.
Martin Paul.
Get out of town. That's his name?
That is the name his parents gave him. And he is King of Houmas. He is quite excited. Every time I see Martin, he's very excited to be honored to be the King of Houmas. Especially this year with his queen, who he has known since she was probably a toddler.
Yeah.
And so he's really had quite an enjoyable holiday Mardi Gras season. Therese.
Right, Therese de Planis, and we got the U.S. Coast Guard, and of course, for those of you who, and I'm sure you're aware, especially because of our proximity to the water, specifically the Gulf of Mexico down here, the U.S. Coast Guard is a branch of the U.S. Armed Forces. It's one of the 7 U.S. uniformed services. They're a maritime military multi-mission service, unique amongst the military branches because they have both a maritime law enforcement mission and also a federal regulatory agency commission, and that's real important. So we want to thank the U.S. Coast Guard, and you see, of course, the Color Guard coming up, and we would like to thank them for their participation in the parade today. Again, for all of these people, especially those who are out in the open, like these gentlemen here carrying the colors from the Coast Guard, I'm not sure what the weather was like an hour and a half to 2 hours ago, Regina, when they started marching out of the mall. It may have been sprinkling, it may have been raining, I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. So for any of these guys, even the Shriners, we see the Shriners right there, those are some brave people that had to brave the nature, Mother Nature today.
Well, I can tell you, I was marching in the parade Sunday with our son in a local band, and I have a greater respect for everybody that participates, not just the revelers, but those that walk, those that serve. And it's just a testament to the Coast Guard that that's just the kind of dedication that these people are, no matter what the weather is, whether it's serving the community or walking in a parade. It is quite grueling. I think I think it's about 7 miles, the parade route. And by the time they get here, they've been marching for several hours. And it's a lot of fun. It really is. They get to see a lot of people, but it can kind of take a toll on you. And with the weather being what it was, it can be quite challenging. But they seem to be not bothered by it at all. They're having a great time. It's Mardi Gras Day in Houma in South Louisiana. Great tradition. A lot of people show up. They have a lot of fun.
Now let's talk about the Shriners here. And again, for both Regina and I, who both grew up in Houma and have been here all our lives and have been to parades for years. And, the Shriners, we know them so well because of the color, those two-tone color on their motorcycles. And, of course, those figure eights that they do.
That's what I remember. When I go to a parade, even being a little kid, I remember standing on the side and watching them do the figure eights. And Mama would always grab me and pull me back because I guess we were afraid to get hit by it. But they're very dedicated in what they do. They don't miss a mark, and they've been doing it for years.
And by the way, the local Shriners have 150 members. Shriners worldwide have 500,000 members. And of course, one other thing we do want to mention, a great charitable effort by the Shriners. They have 22 Shriners hospitals for children, 18 orthopedic hospitals, 3 burn hospitals, and 1 hospital that provides orthopedic burn and spinal care, injury care. So we want to thank the Shriners, not just the 150 here in our area, but like we said, the more than what was the figure I said? The 500,000, half a million worldwide.
And they have helped over 700,000 children in these areas where they need spinal cord injury, orthopedic burn victims. And the great thing about that is that it's at no cost to the parents of the child, which is a great service that they provide to the community and to our nation. So we want to thank them for all that they do.
Now we got, as we're sitting here, again, we call this live on tape, we're getting a little bit of rain right now. It's very, very light, so Regina and I are not panicking in the big man lift that has a cage around it. Now,
if
Vanderbilt
you look
Catholic.
on your TV right now, you can see the Vanderbilt Catholic High School Marching Band. Martin and Therese are both alumni of this school.
Well, Therese is about to become an alumni in a couple of months.
She will be, you're correct. She is a senior this year at Vanderbilt Catholic. She is actually in the Fantastic, so I'm sure she will be cheering very loudly for her sisters and her brothers in the Vanderbilt Regiment.
And as they come up, and I got to say this, here's our point of personal privilege. Real quick, I do want to say this. Martin and I and Regina, we've known each other. That's why we were honored to be asked to announce this parade. In my 25 plus years in television that I've worked with Martin and all the parades I've announced, all the athletic events, I'm about to do something that I have never done in my entire television or even radio career.
I'm a little nervous.
No. I have never announced an event, whether it's an athletic event or in this case a parade, in which one of my children is performing.
There he is, right there.
My 9th grade
right
son.
On the edge.
Yeah, the very
Smiling.
bottom
He's
with
looking.
a snare drum on the right. My son,
we got a smile. That's a biggie from
Well, cool. So our son Kyler is one of the 9th grade snare drummers in Vanderbilt Terrier Regiment Band. Now,
it's led by Mr. Brad Adams.
Wait, let's hold on just a second. There's a few things in addition we want to say about the band, but they're going to line up real quick. And the key thing when you announce a parade, I've done a bunch of these, is when a band gets to the reviewing stand, you need to be ready to shut up real quick. And so we're kind of holding tight. And we're going to get ready. Okay, here we go. Oh, there's our son right there. Okay, so why don't we be quiet for just a minute. Here's the Vanderbilt Terrier Regiment. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the Vanderbilt Catholic Terrier Regiment. And by the way, that was Lady Gaga.
That was Lady Gaga.
Yes, just to let you know. Let's see, they're going to probably play a bit more. Here they go. y'all? That's the Vanderbilt Catholic Terrier Regiment.
It's led by Mr. Brad Adams and Mr. Steve Wilson. There you have your Vanderbilt Regiment Band. It's 170 members. They have won numerous awards this year, the 2010-2011 marching season. At the Louisiana Showcase Battle of the Bands, they are awarded #1 for percussion and drum major champions. It's only one of the few bands to receive sweepstakes award, and all won in categories. The Fantastics dance team has traveled to Orlando to perform at the Capital One Bowl. And the Winter Guard groups, the concert band, the indoor percussion group have all been awarded numerous awards. The Wind Symphony has been invited by Disney Honors National Choral Concert Band and Orchestra Invitational at Disney Worlds in March. And Vanderbilt is the only band in Louisiana to invite it to perform at this. So we're very proud of our local school here and the contributions they've made, not only local, but have brought it to other areas.
Yeah, and by the way, Hunter Bound and Megan Chauvin are the drum majors. And again, as Regina said, at the Showcase of Marching Bands, which is at ULL in November, it's kind of like the Super Bowl of high school bands in Louisiana, and they were named the best drum majors in Louisiana, regardless of class. The percussion, or the drum line, it was named the best in Louisiana for the second year in a row, and they were named the best Class AA band in the state. So congratulations to Vanderbilt. And traditionally, they do lead the parade. There are a number of factors as to why that is, usually of which the king and/or queen either went to Vanderbilt. In this case, that is the case this year, and of course they do have some say in the band. So traditionally, Vanderbilt does lead the
and the Krewe of
parade.
Houmas would like to thank Vanderbilt and all the participants participating in the Mardi Gras.
Okay, we got some
this year.
buses in the Dune Patrol and in the Shriners Clown units are going to be coming up pretty soon, and I can see King Martin Folse in a distance. You can see the king float. If you look at your screen now, you see the purple up on top. You can see Martin coming in. Let's talk about this, and we're going to have a lot to say about Martin, as you might imagine, when he gets up here. Because
we
of
love
course,
Martin.
of course, and there's a bit of a time when all the pomp and circumstance, the presentations, and I think it is quite likely that someone will hand him a microphone. And if someone does that, he may have something to say. And I think that's shocking for you to hear that, Regina, but I think that Martin will have something. And there he is right there. Look at him. I like his costume. And maybe, we saw it in the newspaper this morning, from the picture from the tableau. And I like the black and gold costume.
I wonder if it has anything to do with that he's a big Saints fan.
I don't know. I know how big of Saints fans he is, but his mom and dad. Eugene and Lorraine Folse are humongous Saints fans. Knowing Martin, he will claim that he did it for his mom and dad.
Probably so.
But we'll see. He may say something.
He
when
looks
he
like he's having a really great time. I bet. Look, he's pointing to people that he knows. I'm wondering how many people has called this man's name as he's rolling down the parade route.
And let's explain one other thing. And people probably have noticed this, and I guess it deserves a bit of an explanation. Martin Folse has the rare honor of beginning Mardi Gras this year in Houma and ending it, because you might recall that Tab Benoit and Martin were the grand marshals of the Hercules Parade 2 weeks before, which, quite honestly, he was actually asked to do that before he committed to being King of Houmas. So he already knew he was going to lead Mardi Gras. But
we're just going to tell you a little bit about Martin. If you don't know him quite as well as Lion I do, he was born here in the South, in Thibodaux. He's always had an entrepreneurial spirit. And that's something that if you know Martin, it's not surprising. Way back in high school, which was a few years ago, he won the coveted Bishop Shakespeare Award, and he was honored as Senior Terrier of the Year, and he led the state finalist football team in interceptions with 9, and he broke 2 track records. So that's some information about Mr. Folse that I didn't know, but it's really not that surprising to me. When he does things, he goes all out. Look at him. As you can see, he's quite excited as he's reaching. He's reaching for the roses. I'm sure he's going to be giving that to his family.
And of course, he's got the boxes, and he's got to get ready. Now, this takes some preparation and some thought here, because they set up the little gangplank, which they're doing right now, where Martin will he will get up there, and of course, it's going to take a little bit of setup. Mike Duplantis, of course, who is the husband, or excuse me, the father of the Queen, is getting on there. So they got to set up. So Therese, the Queen, will be getting up there pretty soon. And then it'll kind of be the back and forth of some of Martin's family and then some of Therese's family. Now, of course, a little bit more about Martin. Of course, Martin and I first got to know each other when we were both students at Nichols at the same time in the early 80s. Right after graduating in 1984, he made Nutriman. People know about the movie Nutriman. And then started HTV right after that. He and I got together within the first few months after he started HTV, and when he decided he was to start doing some high school football.
And that's been how many years now? Is that
That's 25 and a half years.
25 years. He's been serving the community. He's been bringing you hurricane coverage. He's been covering Mardi Gras parades. He's been covering parish council meetings, all the kind of things that a local TV station can bring you. And now it's kind of great that he comes full circle and he's getting to be king today, filming it with his own TV station. I think that's something he could be quite proud of. You know, some of the other accomplishments Martin has done, back in 2004, Martin's made some trips to Nashville. Martin has felt his desire to be a singer and a songwriter, and actually I can say, I've heard some of his CDs, and he's actually pretty good. He's made some connections, and he's brought some musical talent to Houma. Here comes Martin, coming across, greeting his queen.
And he's going inside. Why do you think why do you think he went
He's
inside?
probably going to tell all the people inside a really nice hello and happy Mardi Gras.
I'm sure that's what it is. There's no doubt that's what it is. So, but a little bit more about Martin. Of course, he was in 1993. He was named Vanderbilt Alumnus of the Year. By the way, the song, you're talking about the song, the singer, the singing and the songwriting, Regina. Of course, let's not forget the song Botoxicated, which Regina and I didn't know about this until we had lunch with Martin 3 days before the parade. And he told us about this song, Botoxicated. Yes, Botox, you've heard of that, was Botoxicated. And he actually, a couple of cosmetic surgeons used his song in commercials, interestingly enough. And he was named Man of the Year by the Woodman of the World back in 2005. He's been a Grand Marshal several times in other Mardi Gras parades, including the Krewe of Hercules this year. And by the way, although this is the Houmas Parade, Martin did want to make sure that we mention to those from the Krewe of Hercules, as you see the Queen Therese Duplantis with her dad Mike. He wanted to thank S.P. LaRousse and the Krewe of Hercules for treating him like a king, so to speak, and he really had a great time with them. He wanted to make sure to mention that. By the way, one other quick thing we do want to say about Martin that you may not be aware of, the movie Black Swan, of course, which just came out. Natalie Portman won the Academy Award for Best Actress. Martin was one of the investors in that movie. And
it has won several prestigious awards locally, and I assume it's going to continue to do very well at the box market.
Box office.
Box office.
Box market sounds kind of cute, and we'll go with that too. So Queen Therese Duplantis. Why don't we talk a little bit about Therese? Because let me tell you, this young lady has her family has an unbelievably lengthy
tradition.
History. Yeah. Therese is the granddaughter of Mr. Ronnie Haydel, and Ronnie was the king of Houmas a number of years ago. I think he was king 54.
Yeah. And if I remember right, Martin was one of his dukes.
Martin was one of his dukes. Ronnie Haydell's now had the opportunity of being king himself. He's had 2 of his daughters be queen. Her mom is Teresa Haydell, married to her dad, Mike Duplantis. Both families obviously very involved in Mardi Gras. And Therese, as you see her sitting there in the throne, and they'll take a few pictures. Parish President Michel Claudet standing there with the traditional key to the city, which will be presented to her. And then, of course, when Martin gets back up in a few minutes, they'll present it to him. So we're going to kind of hold tight and talk a little bit until Michel puts that mic up to his mouth.
Well, let's introduce you a little bit to Therese. She's 17, like we said. She is a senior at Vanderbilt Catholic High School. She is a member of the Student Council, the Key Club, and Campus Ministry, as well as a 3-year member of the Fantastics team. One of the things she said about, when I asked her one of the great things about Mardi Gras and her reign, she said that the court has become more like family, like sisters and brothers and uncles, rather than just a crew. And she's really enjoyed it and very happy that she was able to participate in the kind of way that she has. And like I said, she and her family have been quite close to Martin and his family, so it was just really delightful for her to be able to be his queen this year.
Okay.
And you can look, you can see them embracing.
All right, well, here comes the presentation. Michel Claudet, again, the key to the city to both of them. So Michel will take to the mic. Some more things we want to tell you about Therese, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Wow, that is beautiful. Look at that.
On behalf of the city, the citizens of the city of Houma and the parish of Terrebonne, it gives me great pleasure to present this to our great city parish, to King and Queen Houmas 65. May you have a long and happy reign.
Can we put these down? You good, Dad, Doug?
Yeah. Again, you see King Houmas 65. I did say he was 65 years old.
First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out on not too perfect a day, but they always say, don't let it rain on your parade, but with all these beautiful people here and this beautiful queen, I hadn't seen a raindrop all day long. I couldn't have asked for a better queen, better queen's family. My family's here, all my friends. The Dukes are right behind us. They've been cutting up all parade long. I just want to thank also the crew of HTV who's been setting up all these parades. So to everyone who made Mardi Gras possible, to all the maids, y'all have been a classy bunch from day one. Congratulations to you all too. So thank you everybody for coming out. We'll keep it short now. Thank you. God bless y'all. Have a good rest of the parade.
The traditional toast now, again, King Houmas 65, Martin Folse, and of course the Queen, Miss Therese Duplantis.
She is the daughter of Teresa and Mike Duplantis.
Teresa. You think that's hard in their family, the Teresa? We need to ask them if that's hard. Teresa, which one? Teresa.
Thank you, Brad.
You did a wonderful job. Did you have fun today?
Oh, yeah.
And Regina said this earlier, and it's important to point out, they have literally, or Martin has known Therese literally her entire life, since she was a baby. And when Mike and Teresa approached Martin several months back and said, look, would you be the king if she is queen? Martin, it's no secret to a lot of people in this town, has been considering this and discerning being king for many, many, many years, and had a couple of other opportunities over the past few years to maybe be king, and this was just the right time, the right year. Martin is not gonna mind me saying he's 50 years old. In fact, he'll be 51 in just a couple of weeks. He thought, well, I'm 50 years old, maybe it's time. And again, it all worked out. The weather, which was so threatening, is actually pretty nice right now, other than the wind. But it has kind of worked out. Now coming on the float will be Martin's parents, Eugene and Lorraine Folse. I see his brother, his younger brother, Leonard.
Coming aboard with them.
Now, one other quick thing I do want to say about Therese, too, before Martin's family gets up there. Again, Therese is the granddaughter of Mr. Ronnie Haydel, and Ronnie was the king of Houmas a number of years ago. I think he was king 54.
Yeah. And if I remember right, Martin was one of his dukes.
Martin was one of his dukes. Ronnie Haydel has now had the opportunity of being king himself. He's had 2 of his daughters be queen. I think this is now 2 of his granddaughters, I believe, who have now been queen. And I think, you know, as you kind of prepare to announce a parade like this, Krewe of Houmas did a wonderful job of putting together kind of a rough script for us here. But one of the great stories we heard was from the mother, the queen, Teresa. Told Regina and I in City Hall before the parade started. You might want to repeat that story, I think, which was, City of Houma needs to hear this story about why her grandfather, a former king, is not here at the reviewing stand.
Well, it's not because that he prefers to ride. He knows how important this day is, and he said there was no other feeling than coming down the street and seeing his granddaughters and his children on the stand. He said it gets very emotional, and she said that he might even cry, and I hope I don't break up and cry, because it's very touching. And he said it was just a special moment that he got to share with them in that kind of way.
And of course, back to Martin, of course, Eugene and Lorraine Folse, Martin's parents, his younger brother Leonard is there as well. And what a moment for the Folse family. I mean, here's the thing about the Folses. Again, we've known them for almost 30 years. We've been personal friends, and I got to tell you, say what you want to say, think what you want to think about Martin Folse. Let me tell you something about him. He is nothing if not a loyal human being to his employees, to his family, to his friends, to this town. The rest of his family, who are much shyer and don't want any part of getting on that float right now, we do want to mention his brother Mike, who you've seen on HTV for many, many years. Mike and his wife Pam are here, and their sons Mitchell and Christian and Sean. Sean is one of Martin's godchildren. His sister Myrna is here. His sister Amy and her husband John Fossian from New Orleans are here, and their sons John and Josh. Josh is also a godson of Martin. Both of them played baseball at Jesuit. The father, John Fossian, who's married to Martin's sister Amy, I had the opportunity of being the voice of Nichols baseball back in the early 80s when John was pitching there. So John and I got to catch up before the parade today. We have not talked to each other in years, and it was great to see John today. And of course Martin's sister Eleanor, her husband Kevin LaBeouf, and their children Dominic and Elise. Elise is known as Lily.
She's the only granddaughter.
The only
little
granddaughter.
Princess in the family.
The only niece, if you will, of Martin. And they all called. Now this is funny. Of all those nieces and nephews, you know, Mitchell and Christian and Sean and John and Josh and Dominic and Lily, they all call Martin by a name. And that name is Uncle Bookie. So Martin's nickname in his family, at least to the
Uncle Bookie.
Uncle Bookie. Bookie. So
and Martin was quick to point out it had nothing to do with gambling.
It has nothing to do with gambling.
It was just a nickname, a term of endearment between his nephew and himself, and it just kind of stuck, and that kind of happens in families. So if you ever hear people call him Uncle Bookie, it's a positive thing.
And Martin's friend Peggy, and we know Peggy. You went to school with
Yes,
Peggy.
we did.
Is up there. And again, this is all the kind of the pomp and circumstance. If you're watching a parade and maybe you catch a parade somewhere else down the route, this is all the stuff you kind of miss. You never get to see all this. All you know is if you're further back on the route, you wonder why the parade stops at some point. Well, this is the reason it stops. If you're watching this, of course, this takes some time. And if you're king, you're only going to do this once. Or queen, and so you got to take a little bit of time and do this, and you've got so many family and friends and everything that are here on the reviewing stand, and you've got to have that opportunity, that moment, and the weather has worked out. You got to admit, it's actually right now as we're sitting here, it's actually 1:30 in the afternoon on Mardi Gras Day. It's as nice as it's been all day.
Right, and now we're seeing Therese's family come aboard, Mike and Teresa and her brother Evan.
And by the way, Therese, this is not the first time Therese Duplantis has been royalty in the Krewe of Houmas. She was actually a page back in 2000. She was a maid candidate 2008, 2009, 2010, and of course the queen this year. Now Martin, you see Martin hugging her father Mike, and then of course the brother Evan. Mike and Martin go way, way back. Some of the stories we maybe can repeat.
We cannot repeat on the air.
Some we cannot repeat. Martin made sure we knew when we talked to him about it the other day. So here they are, Evan Duplantis, Martin Folse, Therese Duplantis, Teresa Duplantis, and Mike Duplantis, going left to right.
And Mike was a Duke back in '94 and 2000. Evan was a page in 2000. It's his first year member in the Krewe of Houmas.
And the mother, Teresa Hadel Duplantis, was a maid in 1983. She was the queen in 1984. And again, the grandfather, Mr. Ronnie Hadel. Ronnie has been a member of the crew for 46 years. He was a Duke back in 1976. He was King Houmas the 54th back in 2000. Was a longtime board member. And we're gonna let you know. We're gonna try to spot him. I think he's on float number 11. And when we get to that float a little bit later, we'll kind of keep an eye out for him. So again, these families, the Hadel family, the Duplantis family, of course, Mike, the Duplantis family, Yacht was the boy. Everybody remember Yacht's restaurant growing up here in Houma. The brothers, Ricky and Boogie, and that restaurant food service background in that particular family is very well known in Houma. So Therese coming back off the float with her family now.
And just to our right, next to where we're positioned is a flatbed, and it's the rest of Martin's siblings who want to kind of stay a little more on the side. They have been watching and laughing and pointing and really enjoying. Other little nieces and nephews are looking at Martin. I'm sure some of the little ones don't quite recognize him with the wig, but I think he's kind of dashing looking, I have to say.
I think he looks great.
I think he's, there you go. Hello, Martin.
Lannis is in the house.
I think what's awesome.
Lannis.
That's the first anchor man right there.
I mean, he just called me by the nickname that he has called me for years, Lannis. And for some silly reason, he thinks Lonnie has got to be short for something. And one day he decides about 15 years ago that it's Lannis that it must be short for, which it is not. So I'm Lannis, so that's what he just called me. But we have been great friends for years, and we can't. Regina and I and our kids, Caitlin, Kyler, and Landon, I cannot tell you the hours we have spent with him and sharing meals and at his house and parties, and just a great human being. And that's why we were so honored to be asked to do this. Now, one thing we need to make sure we do is recognize the pages that are coming up, and let's go ahead, and why don't you take the boys, I'll take the girls.
Well, the king page, the master, is Evan James Bourgeois, and he is son of Richard and Rebecca Bourgeois. Then we have Corey Charles Hebert, who's the son of Julie and Craig Hebert. And then we also have Stephen Christopher Capel. He's the son of Melvin and Angie Capel.
And the Queen's pages, and again, those are the three boys, again, the King's pages, and then of course, for Therese, her Queen's pages are Mary Catherine Watkins, daughter of Jimmy and Tammy Watkins, Olivia Lee Bourgeois, daughter of Richard and Rebecca Bourgeois, and Anna Lynn Hadel, the daughter of Dr. Scott and Sarah Hadel. So those are the pages. Those are the young people. You can see them wearing gold. They got off the float.
They're having a good time. What a great thrill for these young adults and young children. And when they're young adults, I'm sure they'll reflect finally back to this day and say, I remember. And they get to tell their children those stories of when they were young. And maybe they'll get to grow up and be in some of these carnival crews.
And one other quick thing we do want to mention about Martin while he's up there, and we certainly don't want to forget about this, is, let's not forget the Styx concert. For everyone in Houma, the home is still a buzz about what Martin as king, and then also, and again, we're going to see the Dukes here in just a moment. Their float is next. But Bobby Thompson Jr., his head Duke, pulled off that the concert with Styx in LaRue, and my goodness, I mean, we were there, and you and I had never seen Styx in concert. We've tried many times, just our schedule never made it happen.
I felt
Martin
very
pulled it off
to be there that night, and one of the things that I admire so much about that night was Martin, in his generousness, he invited to the crews, he invited the policemen and the firemen, but he didn't just make it a concert. He took that and had the proceeds help the Children's Advocacy Center. So that's just another attribute of this man, Martin Folse, in the community, helping.
Martin Folse. Now again, he's gonna
continues his ride.
He's gonna see the rest of his family here in just a second, because watch what he's doing here, guys. He's stopping again because the flatbed right next to us. You see them there with the Lede Insurance and the HTV banner. That's the rest of his family. So he's throwing things to them. Get to the rest of his brothers and sisters, and his nieces and nephews are there. So we want to make sure to acknowledge the rest of his family as Martin gets ready to pull off. Here comes the Duke floats. And what a crew this is.
Boy, we can hear them from half a block away. The whole float, if you look down the street, is just bouncing in rhythm to the music. And what a great time for them. A lot of these guys went to high school with Martin. They've been lifelong friends, so they are really having a good time.
And again, just so you know, the way it used to work, like many of the other crews, these Dukes used to ride in individual convertibles.
Right.
But a few years ago, because of the camaraderie and they're always close friends, they wanted to ride and
together.
throw.
Right.
So this is the Dukes float. And again, we'll start with
Mr. Bobby Thompson. We have Mr. Drew Bro, Dr. David Fauke, Mr. Joe Waits Jr., Mr. Kyle Falk,
Richard Bourgeois, Brian Molazon, Dr. Bobby Haydell Jr., Mike Barker, and Jimmy Watkins. Now, most of these guys, Drew, David Fauke, Joe Waits, Brian Molazon, Mike Barker, Jimmy Watkins, all graduated with Martin from Vanderbilt in 1978. Bobby Thompson and Richard Bourgeois and Bobby Haydell graduated the year after, 1979.
and boy, is this reviewing stand getting pummeled.
And let me tell you, this particular group of Dukes, Martin made it clear, not only this year, but even in the past when he is considered being kings, that he had to have this group of 10 guys. It had to be these 10. They're extremely close friends. And what I'm trying to do is almost try to help you and go left to right. I see Kyle Falk in the back.
Yes.
But I see Bobby Thompson right there in the back. You see Bobby Thompson right in the middle. Kyle Falk is in that back corner over there. But anyway, those were the Dukes. Bobby Thompson, Drew Bro, David Fauke, Joe Waits, Kyle Falk, Richard Bourgeois, Brian Molazon, Bobby Haydell Jr., Mike Barker, and Jimmy Watkins. And our next band coming up is Estruma High School out of the Baton Rouge area. And they are the, well, we're going to let them get, again, it's kind of like we saw with Vanderbilt. They're going to get up here and they're going to kind of position themselves and play. Another thing we want to remind you, we'll say this later as well, there is, what's cool about the Krewe of Houma is they have a contest. But let's hear from Estruma and we'll tell you more about that in just a moment. All right, y'all, that was Estruma High School out of the Baton Rouge area. Again, the way this contest works is each of the high school marching bands in the Krewe of Houmas Parade today, they have a number of judges that are stationed throughout the parade route. You got to think that there's probably one right here around the reviewing stand, and they award a prize to the band that they felt was the best high school band
Right,
in the
they
parade.
make a donation to the school, and it's, you know, whichever band that they feel that has performed or played to the crowd. They have 5 judges along the parade route, and then after the parade, I guess they come to a consensus of which one that they think that deserved that award.
Right, and so I know Edie White won it last year. Vanderbilt won it a couple years before that. We've got the, we just had the Davidson Hardware antique delivery truck just go by us, and we got the State Police rollover trailer. Now, you see this in a lot of the parades, and, you know, and kind of, you know, we even have our next high school coming up, but the rollover trailer, again, this is to bring attention to the importance of wearing seatbelts. Seatbelts. That's very, very important, and I see the dummy walking. We don't see him on camera right now, but anyway, the dummy, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Oh, this is Carroll High School. The bands are a little bit out of order, so we had to jump ahead. Carroll High School.
It's under the direction of Mr. Mike Price. It's the 3rd in Houmas Parade today. It's marched through Washington, D.C. to inauguration in Atlanta.
Right, why don't we go ahead and hear a little bit from Carroll High School.
If you can see that the bass drum line was really having a lot of fun. They were getting into it and dancing and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things about this band is they got to play the pregame for the New Orleans Saints.
He also represented Louisiana in the VH1. Home Depot battled the bands in California. They first came to the Krewe of Houmas back in 2007, and I believe they actually won that competition that year, so they're looking to do it again. And so that's Carroll High School. We want to thank them and their director, Mike Price, for coming on down to Houma. Again, of course, we're working off of the script that the crew put together, and already the bands are a little bit out of order, so sorry as we're trying to scramble here and make sure
what you see right now on TV is float number 4. It's the King Arthur. The float captain is Todd Thibodeau.
And of course, King Arthur was that legendary British leader who, according to medieval history and romance, led the Britain's defense against the Saxon invaders in the early 6th centuries. And of course, the details of his story are mainly composed of folklore and literary invention, and his historical existence is debated and disputed by modern history. So King Arthur, float number 4 in the 2011 Krewe of Houmas Parade. And we're going to they'll be getting here in just a few moments. We've got a few police cars and in between the back of Carroll High School's marching band and Todd Thibodeau's float, King Arthur, float number 4. And Regina, I'm looking down, and of course you can kind of tell when on camera as you look down, the crowds look pretty healthy. They look pretty good considering the threat of the weather, which it looks like the weather is going to hold out now. I think we'll be okay.
Right,
probably not quite as big as you would normally have on a Mardi Gras day.
Maybe a tiny bit thinner, but I'm really happy with the amount of people that have showed up. The weather, like you said, the weather has held off. You know, Lonnie, I'm watching these guys throw, and I'm wondering how many of them have to go home and ice down their shoulders or have bruises on their legs of falling, all in the fun of Mardi Gras. And I'm so glad that they do it, because without these people rolling, we would not have this great celebration. As people say, the funnest show on earth that is free. So we're very blessed to be in this part of the country. Such a celebration.
You know, as this float comes by, Regina, what happens is, you know, we're actually, where Regina and I are stationed, we're at the reviewing stand, we're actually on a man lift. We're lifted up behind the reviewing stand, and there's actually wire around us. We're actually in a cage. And now the reason for that is I have had the opportunity to announce parades for HTV before, here at the reviewing stand live as we're doing it now. And let me tell you, getting stung in the face when you're turned in the opposite direction looking at something, announcing something else is not fun. So they kind of wrapped us up a little bit here. And so anyway, that was Todd Thibodeau's float number 4. So
I see Scoobert coming down the street.
Oh, wait. Oh, y'all.
Scoobert.
Oh, trust me. Oh, by the way, the KXOR van.
I love that radio station.
Hey, guys, y'all got to hear the story. You can't see them because they're kind of right underneath us now, but the KXOR band just went by 30 years. This June 3rd will be 30 years since Regina and I met at KXOR when I was working in radio. And we'll talk more about Martin and I's career in radio that goes back even further than that, but that's where Regina and I met, when I was working at KXOR. Now, float number 5.
It's float captain, Damon Baldone. He brings float 5 down the street, and these guys look like they're really having a good time.
And I see Damon. Damon is up in the middle, up on the top. He has the gold, you see him right in the middle of your screen at the top with the gold mask on. State Representative and Attorney Damon Baldone. And by the way, I've been so excited all day to have the opportunity to say this, that I never knew this. You were a fan of Scooby-Doo growing up, right?
Oh, I always watch Scooby-Doo.
Oh, Scooby-Doo.
Every Saturday morning.
But here's the important thing. How many people knew that Scooby-Doo's real name was Scoobert? And that's why this float is named Scoobert Scooby-Doo, because in the episode entitled A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, his parents embarrassingly revealed the fact that Scooby-Doo's real first name was Scoobert. So Scoobert-Doo. And by the way, riding on the very front, King Houma's 63, Mr. Tony Alford. And Tony's mask is silver duct tape.
It's creative. I have to give them that. It's very creative. I'm so glad we have this metal cage.
To have us.
We're getting quite pummeled right now.
That would be Steve Spinella.
Thank you, Mr. Spinella.
Even behind the mask, they think they can hide. They can't.
I have to say, I kind of feel like when the monkeys at the Audubon Zoo growing up when I was kids with the screened-in cage.
And I see Kyle Domang. Oh, we caught a good
thank
feed. No, but wait,
feed made it
Regina. Okay, we need our crew. We need Bryson, Stefan, the guys. You got to get the guy.
The last guy?
Last guy on the bottom.
I'm really digging this
That
costume.
is Stevie Smith. For those who know Stevie Smith,
you
got to
him
catch out
waving.
his costume.
He looks like the dark.
Look at him from Black Swan. Look at Stevie Smith. There he is in the white.
He's actually pulling it off quite well. I'd be a little surprised, but kind of flattering looking.
Hey, look at the back of the float, the banner on the back of the float. This parade is for you. Gabby Hebert. Gabby's dad, Todd. Of course, Gabby, one of the 4 Vanderbilt students, tragically killed in the accident back at the end of September. Her dad, Todd, is on the float. Again, Ian Haydell also killed in that accident. Of course, is a cousin of the Queen. And we certainly don't want to forget TJ Cantrell and Megan Hitt. So again, our prayers, our thoughts will never, ever leave those 4 angels and their families.
That's a nice tribute that they remember them. And I'm sure a lot of people along the parade route still continue to. These guys are having a great time today.
Now, by the way, Lutcher High School is going to be the band that's coming up next. Again, the bands are a little bit out of the order that we thought they'd be in. That's okay, though. It's not going to mess you up at home as you're watching this, but I still can't get over Stevie Smith with the Black Swan in the back. That is awesome. You got to give these guys some credit for being pretty original. Tony Alford with the silver duct tape mask and Stevie Smith with the Black Swan costume. Truly highlights
I think there's a book, like 100 Things to Do with Duct Tape. He's going to have to send this one in.
Okay, y'all, this is Lutcher High School, the Atomic Tiger Marching Band. So let's check them out. We're still hearing the music for the previous float, but we'll kind of quiet down for a minute, and hopefully we'll be able to hear Lutcher.
They are really getting
wow,
into it.
Look at them.
Thing that I've always witnessed about Lutcher is they really perform to the crowd. I've seen them at Friday night football games, and whether you're on their sidelines or the other team's sidelines, they really play to the crowd. And they're always such a good band to watch.
There we go. Lutcher High School, again from St. James Parish. Let's see if they stop and perform here at the reviewing stand. Looks like they're going to set up. Here we go, Lutcher High School. Lutcher High School.
What a treat. Folks, you couldn't see it, but Lyle and I were kind of rocking up here as well.
We were rocking. Hey, look, real quick before we get to our next float and everything, we'd be kind of remiss if we didn't do this, but I realized about 30 minutes ago we so quickly went through this, and I didn't want to forget about them because we keep looking at where we're positioned here on the viewing stand. All the maids are in front of us. I don't think we completely went through that list. I want to make sure while we have a couple minutes to do this, the royal maids of the Krewe of Houmas this year: Miss Margaret Elizabeth Strahan, the daughter of Dorman and Lisa Strahan; Rebecca Marie Kearns, daughter of Bobby and Vicky Kearns; Miss Elise Elizabeth Trapp, daughter of Hanky and Susan Trapp; Lexi Lydia Parr, the daughter of Carol Parr and Cindy DeVilliers; Megan Allison Olivier, the daughter of Pat and Bridget Olivier.
We have Miss Jessica Marie Bork, daughter of Phil and Mary Bork. Then we have Miss Lauren Claire Cooper, daughter of Patrick and Elizabeth Cooper. We also have Miss Alexis Claire Guidry, daughter of Leroy and Melissa Guidry; Miss Madeline Wyman, daughter of Kevin and Mona Wyman; and Miss Caitlin Nicole Robichaud, daughter of Steve and Lori Robichaud. And they have really been having a good time. Every time I see them at some event, they are really having a good time. They're a great group of girls. I get to see them. They do go to school with our children. They're really just having a good time. Teresa's really having a lot of fun with these girls. And she said they are like sisters.
So congratulations to the maids this year. It kind of just popped in my head while Lutcher was playing. I don't think we ever completely went through that list. And so congratulations to the maids. And Regina and I were talking about this before when we were down in City Hall prior to the parade starting, when all the maids and their families were in there. We kind of realized that, for a lot of their fathers, we don't see them because they're riding. They're on their respective floats. So it's usually the mothers here with the maids. But Steve Robichaud, he and I went to high school together, and this is 2 years in a row he's had a daughter be a maid in the Krewe of Houmas. And he said, I wanted to be here from my daughter's ride today here at the reviewing stand. So he said, I'll ride next year. So that is a big old record truck. As we look at float number 6, all fired up, coming up. Regina?
The float captain is Mr. Mason Thompson. And the Krewe of Houmas salutes the Houma Fire Department. So they're honoring them today with their ride with their float. And look how they're honoring them. They're just dancing and throwing.
Wow.
Good for them.
Look at the top of that float.
Okay, so how many kids do you think are screaming for that teddy bear right now?
I know. Wow. Is that float top heavy or what? Look how many guys are up there. Of course, keep in mind, those are all the guys from the other side, what we know is the mall side of the float, who all cross over to this side. They're trying to throw into our cage. They're trying to throw into our cage. The problem is we're covered from the top too. Oh, they made it.
Oh, goodness.
They're trying to get it into us.
I'm glad I have good insurance.
Good job, guys.
I can feel my body vibrating with the music coming off of their float.
I know the music, the fact that we're on a man lift and we're high in the air is already bouncing in the wind. And now these guys are throwing beads at our cage and kind of moving us some more. And look, you can tell these are a bunch of young guys. These are all guys probably early 20s or so.
And from what I understand after our conversation with Martin is the membership went up this year. There was an increase in members that they have really had to pack the floats, to legal capacity to accommodate all the people that.
I mean, it's funny how hard they're trying
I'm a little nervous.
to get beads to us, but we're completely covered in chicken wire, basically.
Oh, look.
Wow.
I'm loving this float. Look at my guy.
Look at the back of the float. In loving memory of Ian Christopher Haydell. That is awesome.
That's great. That is wonderful to see. We have Return of the Jedi, and the float captain is Mr. Ben Marlborough. And we have R2-D2 on the front greeting everybody as it's rolling down the road. For those of you who are big Star Wars fans, you'll enjoy this float.
It's kind of interesting because the Krewe of Houmas is, such a traditional crew, and again, the 65th year this year. But you think of how many of these young men whose perhaps their grandfathers rode in the crew at some point, and their fathers, and maybe they still do. It's tremendous tradition in this crew. We talked earlier about the Haydell family, obviously. Again, the family of the Queen, Therese.
It's really great, and I was telling this to my kids. this morning. I said, how many other kids in the country are sitting in the classroom? You know, and how many other people are at work in the rest of the country? I said, we're very lucky. We just got pummeled by a friend. Sorry for the pause. But how many people are lucky to have this in their community? And, you know, speaking of generation after generation of people, and the thing is something that can be passed down, you know, part of our culture in our Southern hospitality and our heritage that we can pass down to our children.
And by the way, this next band coming up is West Feliciana High School. The band director is Kelvin Jones. They are the Spirit of West Feliciana Saints Marching Band. By the way, this year, this is interesting. This band participated in the 52nd Memphis Liberty Bowl game with the OJs. If people remember the OJs from, I guess, the 1970s or so, they performed with the OJs. So this is West
They look
Feliciana
like
High
they just
School.
had one of their dance moves.
All right, that was West Feliciana High School. We want to thank them as they come on by. We see Pot False's flatbed coming by, and of course Pot False. By the way, no relation to Martin, as far as I know. People I'm sure have
I always
asked.
wondered that.
Yeah, I don't think they're actually related. Of course, Pot False is from the Raceland area. He's been playing music now for almost 70 years, and that's him. You see it.
Yeah.
84 years old, and that's Pot right there in the front.
He has 4 CDs. One of them is Everything's Going to Pot. How appropriate. He's a member of the Louisiana Music Hall of Fame and the West Bank Musicians Hall of Fame. Uncle Pot has earned a Lifetime Achievement Award from the South Louisiana music and recording industry. Let's listen to him for a little bit. I don't know if y'all could see it from your TV vantage point, but there were several men with the washboard.
And look at the back. Everything's going to Pot.
And the band that backed him up was Down Home. That's the name of his band. And coming up, we have float number 8. The American Muscle Car. And the float captain is Brandon Gollett.
You got to wonder how many of these guys, you know, it's always kind of a thing when you ride in a crew, and both you and I have ridden before where, you know, which float you're going to be on and what's the theme. Because whatever the theme is what kind of costume you're going to wear, you know? I guess these guys were probably kind of excited, you know, American Muscle Car. All right, that's manly. Oh my goodness, look
And
at
the
the
parade
beads.
theme for this year is Throw Me Something, Mister. So just about any float theme can come into play. I think these guys don't care so much as long as they're riding and having a good time.
I love those beads hanging off if you see the far left of your screen.
Yeah.
How in the world do they get those beads to us is what I'm wondering. Let me tell y'all something how this works, is that when you have chicken wire in front of you when you're announcing, that must have like a target on it.
Yeah.
Because they throw at you. But I think, Gina, you probably like me, you're probably happy that there's chicken wire in front of you right now because.
Very grateful for the chicken wire. Never been so happy to see chicken wire.
Now look what the Queen got. Now if we get a shot of Therese, the Queen, she caught one of those beads I was hoping to get. Ah, man. Those are awesome. I've never, look at that. That is awesome.
Can you see that hanging from a rearview mirror in her car?
Absolutely. That is cool. All right, float number 9. Lynn Strahan is the float captain, the Frankenstein Monster. But I guess you can figure that out from looking at the front of the float. And ladies and gentlemen, Bon Jovi is not in the parade. That just happens to be what they're playing on the float right now. And you know another thing I want to mention from announcing parades here on HTV, and it, by the way, this is the first one I've done in 11 years. And I enjoy being back, and of course, as Regina and I said real early in the broadcast, I mean, we did it for Martin. He asked, and you know, Martin is such a close friend, and we wanted to do it for him. But one thing I do want to mention that I think is important for viewers at home is you will notice that, of course, there are cameras set up on both sides of the street. And the reason for that is, of course, very obvious, because a float has 2 sides. And, you know, if you're the guys who just happen to be on the City Hall side, you know, then you're the only one being shown if that were the case. So it's really important to be able to show both sides of the float. So we wanted to make sure to point, I know it's obvious, you could tell that, but.
And while we're speaking of that, I just want to say what a great crew Martin has working for him, and that I can imagine as King the tireless hours that they have spent documenting this for him. But just, we know that these guys personally, and they've always such professionals and always a pleasure to be around. And I just wanted to tell them thank you for everybody, all that y'all been doing, and you made it such a pleasure for Lion and I to be here today. But always, whenever we do anything with HTV, it's always such a great thing because they have such a great staff. From Joni on down, it's just, they really do make it a pleasure.
They are awesome. And some of these guys, of course, I work with, it's been 11 years since I left HTV, and you know, what a crew. I mean, it's always been outstanding. All right,
we have
the $1 Million Band.
South Terrebonne coming up the street.
Yeah, $1 Million Band from Gatorland coming up from South Terrebonne, and I'm sure they're probably going to perform when they get here to the reviewing stand. So we'll kind of hold tight.
Well, look at them.
Whoa. Go head on, $1 Million Band.
Happy Mardi Gras.
Apparently they know there's a competition going on. South Terrebonne. And now they're going to kind of get in position here, and they're going to perform for us. Again, if you're just watching, this is the 2011 Krewe of Houmas Parade. I'm Lonnie Thibodeau with White Regina, and here we go, South Terrebonne High School. Y'all, South Terrebonne High School marching band and $1 Million Band from Gatorland and Bird.
and you can hear the crowd screaming. They definitely enjoy that performance.
Again, if you're just joining us, this is South Terrebonne High School, the $1 Million Man from Gatorland.
Their percussion team.
Yo, that was South Terrebonne High School. What
Way
a
to
performance.
go, South Terrebonne.
That was great.
I don't think I saw one single person in the reviewing stand or on the side that was not dancing or head bobbing or rocking out. They really put on quite a show. Thank you so much, South Terrebonne High School, for that. And I will tell you, having just marched in the parade, it takes quite a lot of energy to do that once you've marched all the way from the mall all the way downtown.
And again, there is a competition. If you heard us or missed us saying that a little bit earlier, all the high school marching bands in this year's parade, as the Krewe of Houmas traditionally does, there is a contest. There are 5 judges throughout the parade route that are checking out these bands, and whoever just saw South Terrebonne here at the reviewing stand has got to be plenty impressed. All right, float number 10 is coming up.
And that float captain is Luke Kennard, and it is entitled Uncle Sam.
Of course, Uncle Sam is the national personification of the United States, with the first usage of that term, Uncle Sam, dates back to the War of 1812. Of course, he's always portrayed as a serious, elderly white man with the white hair and the goatee beard, dressed in clothing that recalls the design elements of our flag. So,
and float 10, captained by Luke Kennard, said he and his fellow float riders would like to thank and salute all the men and women serving our country, both at home and abroad.
I see Dr. Billy Kennard at the bottom of your screen, the right, a former king of Houmas. You know, it kind of occurs to me, Regina, that where our Elvis is on the float.
Elvis!
Somebody's got a great costume.
Elvis is apparently a big Uncle Sam fan.
You see him the very bottom right of your screen right now, with the white costume with the sideburns. But it occurs to me, because of where we are, right behind the reviewing stand in the cage that we're in, that whoever's directly underneath us in the reviewing stand would be the beneficiary of everything that is thrown right at the front of our cage and bounces off.
And peeking over the edge, that would be Eugene and Lorraine Folse, the King's parents.
I see Mr. Eugene. Okay. You're right. He is standing down there. He's pretty smart. He figured it out. Okay, float number 11, Manuel Merlos's float. This is Christopher Columbus coming up. And I do want to mention, speaking of Manuel, the current makeup of the board members. Manuel's one of the members. Matt Hagan, is the current president of the Krewe of Houmas. Renee Carricker is vice president. Neil Shearer is the secretary. Dan Teffer is the treasurer. Manuel is the current ball captain. Jackie Claymont is the parade captain. The other board members are Dr. Robbie Casio, Brett Cuneo, Tim Duplantis, Rob Hamilton, Donald Learett, Juan Pickett, Earl Carmichael, and Craig Hebert. So Manuel is one of the board members, and this is his float coming up, number 11. You know, the weather has continued to cooperate. It's now 2:12 real time as we're announcing this parade on Mardi Gras afternoon, and it's been about 30 minutes since we felt any of the wet stuff from the sky. So let's hope it'll hold out a little bit longer here. Again, if you're just joining the broadcast, this is the 2011, or if, I guess you want to be more official, it's the 2011 Krewe of Houmas Parade. And by the way, on this float is the grandfather of the Queen, Ronnie Haydell, and I see him right now. He's on the bottom, on the side we're looking at right now, and he's right about in the middle, and he's right in the middle of your screen right now, and he's leaning against.
He's blowing kisses.
Blew a kiss to his granddaughter. He has the blue hat on. He's waving.
And if you look in Therese's arms, she is holding several bouquets of flowers. She's getting kisses blown from all the members on the crew.
Okay, pan left a little bit. That's him. Leaning down. That's him right there.
There he is.
Ronnie Haydell.
Big smile. What a great day for him.
And by the way, we also want to mention on this float is King Houmas the 38th, Mr. Logan Babin Jr., the crew captain, Manuel Merlos, and also the parade captain, Jackie Claymont. Again, Ronnie Haydell, who we just showed, who is the grandfather of the Queen, was King Houmas 54.
And Lonnie, we just mentioned the board of directors, and the board of directors asked us to convey to the royal court their float captains, the entire crew, for making this carnival season the best they've had yet. They would also like to thank their wives and their families for all the support of the many weeks and hours of way performing the duties of the Krewe of Houmas. So they just would like to convey all their gratitude to all these people that just made such a great season for them.
Ooh, I tell you what, we just had a moment. I just looked at the reviewing stand, and boy, there's tears by the Queen and her mom. Wow, that was a moment. I wish I would have noticed it right as it happened as the grandfather. Ooh, what a moment.
And there's Evan, her brother, being very loving. Oh, look how sweet. They're very close. Aw, what a great moment in her life to get to share that with all her family, and her family to share it with her.
Hey, y'all.
It's
Lonnie Thibodeau's alma mater.
H.L. Bourgeois.
The marching sensation from the Brave Reservation. Let's listen in. H.L. Bourgeois High School.
It's directed by Cindy Collins. The Color Guard has received Best in Class Award at the Central Lafourche Marching Contest, and their band director, Miss Cindy Collins, has just been selected the Louisiana Bandmasters of the Year for 2010, so quite a great honor for H.L. Bourgeois. And having a new band student, I can tell you these children and these people that work with the bands have really done a great job. They put in a lot of hours. It's a year-round commitment, and you're getting to see some of the fruitfulness of that during these parades.
So HL Bourgeois again. Let me look at our list real quick. I'm gonna look here at the back. Again, the marching contest we talked about earlier, about how this is going to work. Again, the bands that are in this year's parade, ones we've already seen: Vanderbilt, Carroll, Estruma, Lutcher, South Terrebonne, West Feliciana, and HL Bourgeois. So I think we're still going to see Jeanneret and Edie White. And again, there are 5 judges throughout the parade route. They don't know where those judges are located. You got to assume one is probably here at the reviewing stand since they all perform here. And again, there is a contest, and at the end, as Regina mentioned a little earlier, that school receives a prize, and and has a banner that they won the Krewe of Houmas Parade marching contest for this year. So.
And on your screen right now, you can see float number 12, which is the Civil War soldier. He was typically a man in his early 20s, and he was usually a farmer, and he enlisted in the war. So they just want to honor all those men, especially those who are serving in our present military services, and they say thank you for all that they've done. The float captain is Mr. Jimmy Watkins.
Who's a Duke. So I believe he was on his Duke float. I'm trying to remember if I spotted Jimmy. And again, Jimmy is married to the twin sister of the mother of the Queen. So that's kind of interesting how that all plays out. But let's see if we spot Jimmy. But I'm sure he was probably on the Duke float. This is float number 12 in the 2011. No, that looks like Jimmy right in the front. Maybe he did go ahead and ride. Let me see.
Someone just got pummeled by a big stuffed animal.
And guys, I mean, for those of you who ride now, because we have so many thousands of people in our area who do ride and cruise. Matt Hagan trying to hurt us.
He's trying to tell Lion to stop talking for me to continue. I love you, Matt. Thank you.
We'll get it. We'll get it.
He meant that with the greatest respect,
I know,
I'm sure.
It's pretty creative the way these guys try to figure out how to get beats to us, since we're completely inside of a cage, but on all sides. But
thank goodness we are. And coming up right after that is the Ahab, the Arab. And that float captain is Barry Weiss, and that's our float number 13. It's interesting to watch the different techniques of these guys. Sometimes they just pummel, pummel, pummel. Then I have the technique of pick and choose. Then it's the hold up the animal and make the crowd scream for you. It's interesting to watch the different techniques of these.
And again, and I guess the point I was just trying to make is that, these guys, it's unbelievable the amount of throws on these floats. And I think that's kind of the biggest concern now if you're the crews. How do you fit? See Dr. Jerry Haydell on the front of the float on this particular one. And, how do you fit everything on these floats? Again, remember, we're seeing these guys very late in the route at this point when you see them at the reviewing stand. David Hebert trying to get you a football and can't figure out how since we're in a cage.
Thank goodness.
But, okay, float number 14, movie matinee. Our good friend Mark Lee is the captain of this float.
Just like seeing good movies, the Krewe of Houma hopes you're having a good viewing with your parade today. And I have to say, I agree. I think we are. I think it's a great turnout. The crew has always been very generous in their throws. Class act, this crew.
We know a bunch of people on this float. To see Carlton Casey, who is the second to last one from the back. Carlton Casey with the gold mask. Of course, Carlton was the king, 3 years ago, I believe.
Correct.
Now he's the very back. I see Leroy Guidry, who is now handing, you see, to his daughter, who is the maid. Of course, it's silly. We're behind the cage and we're waving like they're going to actually be able to reach us some kind of way. All right, that was float number 14, movie matinee. Float captain was, again, Mark Lee.
And of course, we have a great group coming down right now. You can see in here, the United States Coast Guard. What would we do without these guys to serve and protect our country, especially living in such proximity to the Gulf Coast? These guys provide such a amazing service to our area, and we appreciate them very much. We're happy that they could join us in the parade today.
Again, you might remember they were the very beginning of the parade as well. They were the color guard, so thank you, U.S. Coast Guard. Float number 15, Mythological Creatures. Float captain is Chad Pizzolata. You know, one thing I want to mention, Regina, having announced a lot of these parades over the years, one thing you certainly got to give the Krewe of Houma credit for is these guys, except with a few really creative deviations from this, are doing a good job. They're in their costumes. Have you noticed that? They're doing a great job. They're in their costumes. They're wearing their mask. Of course, when you get to the reviewing stand, it is kind of customary to lift up your mask because you know so many people at the reviewing stand.
They're really interacting with the crowd. They're not just throwing. I was watching one guy singing to the crowd as he was going by. I saw one guy jumping up and down and dancing, really making it such a pleasure for us to watch and participate in.
All
These
right,
guys really do enjoy this day, and it comes across, and we all get to enjoy it with them as well.
All right, Chad Pizzolata's float coming by right now. You're watching the 2011 Krewe of Houmas Parade, the 65th annual.
Float captain is Captain Rob Hamilton. This is the Caped Crusader. How many Batman costumes do you think we've had in our house for our boys over the years? Quite a few.
I know.
I bet these guys, when they were young, wore a few as well.
All right, float number 17 is coming up now. And that is Charlie Petrie's float, Explorers of the New World. Wow. Somebody's got an arm on that float that just came by. They're throwing footballs.
Many footballs coming our way. Again, thank you for the chicken wire, Martin.
In float 17, Charlie Petrie's float, Explorers of the New World, coming by right now. And again, we want to thank God for this day, for this parade, and that the weather held out. Because boy, this was a scary, scary situation, especially early this morning. For those of you who remember Mardi Gras morning with the rain, and we did get a little drizzle right as the parade was getting here to the reviewing stand, which was a couple of hours after the parade actually pulled out of the Southland Mall. But boy, it has worked out.
And Spider-Man, that's Captain Reuben Williams' float. And they are packed. This is a quite a long, large float, and they have every space taken up.
I tell you what, it is amazing, you know, because sometimes, you know, in these parades, when you have dukes, and a lot of times you will have dukes that are concentrated from one particular float, and you get to a float that doesn't have many riders, and you wonder why. That's because all the dukes were on that float. That's not really happened. Boy, I tell you what, every float has been just jam-packed. And from what Martin was telling Regina and I a few days ago is we got together to discuss, you know,
our broadcast today, he was telling us that there's been a surge
in membership.
In people enrollment.
I think 390.
Yes.
David Rabelais up at the top.
Yes, we see our. Don't hit us, please.
David trying to figure out how to get it to us, but it ain't working. David Rabelais, of course, the Terrebonne Port Director, and doing a fine job with that. And of course, things are about to wrap up. We're about to actually get into the Krewe of Cajuns Parade in just a few moments, which will mean that we'll be wrapping up our broadcast here very shortly. But again, you know, we certainly want to thank, first of all, Martin and HTV. What a day it has been for Martin Folse and for Therese Duplantis, his queen. And they just, you know, they just did a wonderful, wonderful job of pulling together a great, great parade. We've got one more float coming up, which is not actually identified in the script. Well, there we go. Oh, Tim Duplantis' float. Jolly Roger. That's true. That is on our script. I'm sorry. There it is. See Dr. Dickie Haydell on the bottom, the second one from the front. Hey, it's tough to spot those people with their mask on, but some of them they got that jawline working, and you can tell who they are. Right behind them, by the way, we have the Bayou Cane Volunteer Fire Department coming up, and we certainly want to recognize them. Of course, in the last year, we lost their longtime chief, Jerry Gautreaux, to cancer, and what a good friend that he was.
And also in the convertible, if you look down at your screen right now, we have Miss Sylvia Masters. She's a sophomore at Vanderbilt. She is Le Bon Terre's Outstanding Teen for 2011, a member of this National Honor Society Student Council and soccer team. She's an accomplished piano player. She'll be competing in the Miss Louisiana's Outstanding Teen Pageant.
There she is, Sylvia Masters from
Best of luck
Vanderbilt.
to you, Sylvia.
All right, and so we're about to wrap things up. Again, we want to thank the crew. We're on screen. Hello. Again, I'm Lonnie Thibodeau, it's my wife Regina, and we both have done TV over the years, but it's actually very rare that we do something together on television, so it's kind of exciting. So we want to thank Martin for asking us to do this.
Very brave call, Martin. Thank you.
It was a brave call.
It was a great honor, great to be part of your kingship. And this whole day, we know we meant a lot to you. It meant a lot to us to be participants in it. And we wish you all the best. And thank the crew of Houmas for putting on such a great show for all the people of the city of Houma.
And let's not forget the crew of HTV. These guys do a tremendous job, you know, during Mardi Gras, you know, showing, you know, filming and not always in the best conditions, these parades, and then showing it back to you. We get into Lent. Lent begins tomorrow. That means the diet begins, and I give up sweets and no meat on Friday and all
Maybe
that.
a little extra prayer in there.
Right.
Some of the good things.
So we'll be doing all those. We'll be good in our family. But the point simply is it's kind of awesome, though, in the days as we get into Lent and you kind of want to relive the fun of Mardi Gras. It's great that HTV is being able to show these parades. And so they have just done a great job, and they deserve a lot of credits. Again, by the way, the Krewe of Houmas website, if you want to check it out, www.kreweofhoumas.com. And you want to check it out because they have the history on there. If you want to know the king, not only the king and queen, but the maids, the dukes, going all the way back to the beginning. It's on their website. I checked it out the other day, and it's pretty awesome. Anything else you need to say, Regina?
No, I just want to say thank you for watching HTV. Thank you for watching, being part of, even if it's through your television screen, being part of the experience that makes Mardi Gras in South Louisiana very enjoyable.
All right, and because we're not on TV together very much, I'm just noticing you're shorter than me. I'm looking at the monitor, and I can't help but notice that you're a little bit shorter than me, and it's not that I'm standing on my tippy toes, but anyway. So crew, great job. City of Houma, Terrebonne Parish, thank you. Mardi Gras 2011 is done. It's always kind of sad to say that, but it is finished. But we want to congratulate the royalty for all the crews, not only the Krewe of Houmas, but especially as we wrap up, King Martin Folse, Queen Therese Duplantis and their families. What a day it was for all
the
of
royal
us.
court.
Thank you, God, for the weather holding out for us, and we want to thank you for watching. For Lonnie and Regina Thibodeau and the whole crew, Martin Folse at HTV, goodbye, and we'll see you next year. Bye.